Animal House usually brings to mind John Belushi smashing a guitar, toga parties spilling through the walls, and a slob fraternity treating college like a 4-year jailbreak. But the strangest part is that Delta Tau Chi was not invented out of thin air. The movie grew out of Dartmouth College, especially the Alpha Delta fraternity, remembered by co-writer Chris Miller, who turned his undergraduate chaos into one of the most famous college comedies ever made. Today, we're talking about the real house, the real rituals, the rules nobody followed, and the campus fights that kept going long after the credits rolled. And right here at the start, drop a comment and tell us whether Animal House made college look more fun, more horrifying, or somehow both at the same time. Because the real-life fraternity behind Animal House was even crazier than the movie. The House. The story begins in Hanover, New Hampshire, far from the fictional Faber College. Chris Miller arrived at Dartmouth in the early 60s and joined Alpha Delta, a house with roots stretching back to the 19th century. Inside that world, Miller found the raw material for Delta Tau Chi, the movie's freshmen, wild brothers, nicknames, parties, and anti-authority streak all came from a campus culture that treated respectable Ivy League life like something to be mocked. Miller's own pledge name, Pinto, even made it into the film through Larry Kroger. That detail matters because Animal House was not simply inspired by college partying, it was full of private jokes dragged out of a real basement and put on a movie screen. Dartmouth itself was not where the movie was filmed. The production landed at the University of Oregon after other schools wanted nothing to do with the script. Still, the script came from Hanover. The exterior changed, but the DNA stayed Dartmouth. Pinto's memories. Miller later described fraternity life as a strange pocket of freedom between childhood rules and adult careers. For young men headed towards law firms, banks, graduate schools, and quiet suburban lives, Alpha Delta became the place where they could be ridiculous first. The famous toga party was not just a Hollywood gag. Miller remembered events like it from Dartmouth, along with drunken stunts, strange songs, humiliating traditions, and the kind of brotherly loyalty that could make total nonsense feel almost heroic. That's why the Deltas in the movie feel so lived in. They're not clean comic inventions, they're exaggerated versions of real men with absurd nicknames, bad judgment, and a group identity strong enough to turn foolish behavior into house mythology. When Animal House previewed near Dartmouth in 1978, students understood the joke immediately. They were not just watching a comedy, they were watching a warped, rowdy reflection of their own campus reputation, and they treated Miller like a conquering hero. Old AD. By the 80s and early 90s, Alpha Delta carried the Animal House aura. Green Key Weekend, Dartmouth's huge spring party, became one of the settings where the old image refused to die. The house had a basement trough known as the Gorf, a detail so gross it sounds like something a screenwriter would be accused of making up. Students drank hard, partied loud, and treated the building like a living museum to bad decisions. There were house traditions with names like Magic Monday and the Rack of Gnarl. They involved endurance drinking, stomach-churning mixtures, and the expectation that pledges prove they could survive discomfort without losing face in front of the brothers. The strangest part is how clever some of the madness could be. Alpha Delta's reputation was not simply that of big, dumb party guys. It also drew sharp, witty students who seemed to compete over who could be the most creative menace in the room. Rules lose. The real administration did not find the story nearly as funny as movie audiences did. After Animal House became a hit, Dartmouth's Greek system faced sharper scrutiny from faculty, deans, police, and students who were tired of looking the other way. Late in 1978, faculty members pushed to ban fraternities outright. The college did not go that far, but new rules followed. Alcohol restrictions, renovation demands, delayed rush, and undercover enforcement all tightened the walls around fraternity life. The funny thing is that tighter rules often made the houses more inventive. Kegs disappeared from open view, but students found ways to hide them. Lookouts, warning systems, and secret workarounds turned partying into a low-grade espionage operation. Alpha Delta eventually went independent during one major clash with the college. In the movie, the Deltas answer punishment with a toga party. In real life, the house answered punishment with lawyers, loopholes, and a stubborn refusal to act tamed. The crackdown. The darker side could not be laughed away forever. Allegations involving hazing, crude initiation rituals, underage drinking, and degrading behavior piled up over time. Some former members and critics argued that the brotherhood came with a price many outsiders never saw. By the early 1990s, even members spoke in terms of Old AD and New AD. Old AD meant the wild, almost lawless house of legend. New AD meant carding at the door, BYOB parties, more caution, and brothers asking pledges if they were all right. That change wasn't exactly a moral awakening, it was also survival. Colleges faced federal pressure over alcohol policies, local police became more involved, and fraternities had to worry about lawsuits, sanctions, and public attention in a way earlier generations rarely had. Alpha Delta's official relationship with Dartmouth did not last forever. The house later lost recognition after more disciplinary trouble. By then, Animal House had become both a badge of honor and a curse, making every new scandal feel like a sequel nobody could control. Movie versus reality. Animal House made chaos look like a rebellion against snobs. Real life was messier. The actual Alpha Delta story had loyalty, humor, friendship, and absurd invention. But it also had cruelty, danger, and behavior that aged about as well as milk in a hot car. The movie compresses everything into a clean comic battle. Dean Wormer is the villain. The Deltas are the lovable Slavs. The parade finale lets them blow up the system and ride off into legend. Real Dartmouth had no neat ending like that. What makes the true story so fascinating is that the film did not just borrow from fraternity culture, it fed back into it. Toga parties spread. Students embraced the mythology. Houses leaned into the idea that being outrageous was part of the brand. So yes, the real fraternity behind Animal House was crazier than the movie, but it was also more complicated because real people had to live with the hangovers, punishments, friendships, scandals, and consequences long after Bluto yelled his way into comedy history. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Animal House was mostly harmless college comedy, or did it help glamorize a fraternity culture that was already out of control? Let us know in the comments section below.